I understand the issues, and I'm very sensitive to, as a parent of a public school student, the potential implication of what we're doing on our public schools. And I want to make sure that we get it right, so that way we're not undermining our public schools, but increasing and improving the opportunities across the board. With respect to that, I have a number of questions about exactly how the funding is going to work. And I know that there have been assurances just today that this will be paid for with state dollars. Many individuals, I think, rightly have a concern that we don't want the state to impose on the local school boards how to spend their money. And that's really important, and it's really significant. So if the state then steps up and pays for our state charter schools, I still have additional questions, even though that's a policy measure which I think makes sense. And one of those questions, and I know that this is very important for those in the rural areas, is then how does that impact the dollars in your communities for public education? In other words, if we have to appropriate funds for charter schools, our state charter schools, what will then be the impact on the formula for all the other remaining public schools? And that's a really important question. Another question that I have is if this would even withstand constitutional scrutiny. The court, in its opinion, never got into addressing the issue about funding. And so we all want to avoid going back to court and avoiding litigation. And in my mind, it's unsettled whether the plan that we have right now will do that. So by passing this resolution, will we just be back to court and having these things litigated out? So I also, and this is somewhat technical, but I think when you're dealing with constitutional amendments, you want to be technical. I still think that putting the charter schools in the special schools paragraph is not the best course of action, and here's why. The court very clearly stated that charter schools are not special schools. They said that they are public schools, and the same students that go to public schools go to charter schools. It's the same curriculum as it is for public schools, and so they're not special schools. So what we're trying to do is just change the definition as a rote response to the court's decision without what I think is doing the better course, which I have proposed in H.R. 1335, which is to have a separate paragraph specifically authorizing the state to have this role with respect to charter schools. I think that it's more transparent, I think that it's cleaner, and I think that it better withstands constitutional scrutiny and gets away from the questions of where exactly is the state's limitation in terms of special schools and how do you define special schools. What I would submit to you is on the version that we have now, it only says that special schools shall include charter schools. The court's opinion made reference to other types of special schools. It made reference to adult schools. It made reference to vocational schools. There's also talk about schools for exceptional students. So what happens to those through this definition? Maybe some people know, but that's still a question in my mind, and I'd like to have that worked out before we approve this legislation. I would say that the bottom line for me are two things. To quote Rod Tidwell and Jerry Maguire, show me the money. And I think everybody wants to see where the monies are going to go. And we want that more than just in a statement and a floor speech, but we actually want to see something. We want to see, one of the things that I heard this morning was that the QBE may have a 20th category for state charter school funding. That doesn't exist right now. So what would that look like? And it could be in a draft form, but I want to see what this looks like. What does the implementing legislation look like? I know that I haven't been here very long, and I may not be here very long, But my understanding is that most of the time, when amendments come forward, there is accompanying legislation that you've had a chance to look at and review, so you know what are the consequences of the amendment that you're proposing and how is it going to play out in terms of the statute. I would like to see that, and maybe some of you all would like to see that as well. And finally, I would say, in terms of my opposition, I really want to vote yes for charter schools, and I want to get there. I'm just not there today. So I would like to continue working on this. I would like us to continue the dialogue and the discussion. And while I am not just saying no because I put forward an alternative to House Resolution 1162, I am very willing to continue to work on 1162 to get it to a condition where I think answers some of the many questions which remain open in many minds, including mine. And so with that, I will close and yield the well, and I would ask you to vote no for 1162 so we can continue to work for it and get it to a place which actually helps improve education in this state. Thank you.